So we're going to be going into Kovanel and Arkham right now and taking a look at this match. Let's see what these players have to offer here. We see that the Bull Crane got banned, so getting rid of that fire type opens up a lot of the crystal type on Kovanel's team, and Arkham Knight, recognizing that, bans out the mix, as he doesn't want to have to worry about dealing with mix without that Crane.
Ah, they always ban my favorites. I want to see mix. I want to see Volcrank because they're different, but we do at least get Zenith. So I'm happy to see that.
You see a
I'm
Zenith on both teams. Both these teams looking very similar. The only difference between these two teams is that a Volcrane instead of a Mix. So with Volcrane and Mix gone, they have identical teams. I was talking to you as this tournament was starting, what we can expect, and I was expecting to see a lot of the same Tems, a lot of these safe picks, and that's what we're getting here.
But you know what? You take a look, and we mentioned how Karth isn't in the top 16. Karth, who is doing some new and exciting things. And so it could be that we are just getting into establishment template. We're getting into the safe picks, the safe bans. We're falling into the meta. And it could be what we're seeing now is that we have found it. Last weekend's tournament, we did get to see some exciting stuff with the Calibus, etc. But for the most part, we're seeing a lot of the same Tims now over and over and over again. And the question is, when can we see a Raiken, for example, mixing things up? And oftentimes it's the more exotic Tim choices that end up getting banned anyway. So, for example, the Mix and the Volcrane bans here, those are two Tims we don't get to see quite as often because they get banned, I know. But it's very interesting to see that happen. And neither one happen to have a Volash on the team either. So, yeah, we're getting some very standard teams. We've already seen Saipat. We've already seen Zenith. We've already seen Kinu today. Nothing new or impressive. And looking at the remainder of the field, it's going to be almost a near mirror matchup to what happened between Tepop and Azrael.
Yeah, and you say that we're getting into somewhat of a meta. People thought that we knew the meta ahead of time, and that got shifted up. And, things are falling into a little bit more streamline, as this is very similar to the team composition that Karth used to win the tournament last week, with the only difference being a Valash instead of a Zenith. But I think that all it takes is for one person to bring a drastically enough different team composition that it's going to shake things up, because rather than all of these teams getting funneled down into something similar, if we have one extremely different team comp, then people won't know how to play against it and it'll really shake things up. So I'm just waiting for that team composition to come back and break the meta. We've seen that a couple times with team compositions breaking the meta, and every time it gets broken, it comes back in one form or another, like this one, and it's just a matter of time till it gets broken again.
Yeah, where's our Kazuma? Where's our Nesla? I know Nesla's not a very good competitive Tim. I get that, but there are some interesting switching choices with Nesla, if you think about it. It's just there's a lot of things that you would think we'd be seeing. Very, very little water pick, very little electric pick, no fire pick here whatsoever. It's making me have a sad. But in any case, here we are, round 2. We have Arkham Knight against Kovanel. Kovanel, we know to be a very methodical player, almost having Zen-like moments in his matchup against Dirk.
Yeah, and we saw how both those players were players that like to take a lot of time to take their moves. So we might see a lot longer round here.
We might, which is safer. I'd rather have a good long round for the first one than have the short one and wait for everybody else to finish, in my opinion. But here we go. Crystal Spikes right off the bat against the Pig Epic. And that's going to do not quite 50%, still a bit more than half.
Oof. Very good job taking that opportunity to set up a Madness buff.
We were talking about Madness buff. Is that a normal move set for Zenith?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Having the option to use Crystal Spikes the first turn or just throw up a Madness buff is great, and now he has the potential to deal a lot of damage coming out here. He does need to be careful about Psypat and the potential of a Nicho Psy coming out, but if he throws those attacks into the Psypat spot, he will be able to... I mean, he still has to be worried as Nicho Psy does have high priority. A common thing here would be for Zenith to swap out and put in something that won't die to a Nicho Psy. But we'll just have to see what happens as no swap out comes.
No swap out. Tornado on the Zenith. Crystal Spikes next. Very fast, very quick. Will that be enough? I don't think so.
That is
enough. Wow. And now we'll take out that Zenith there. Very fast, very aggressive play. And Psypat opting to hit.
Ooh.
Oh, and surviving both. Wow, both Arkham Knight's Tim stay on the board. Wow.
There was no way he made that kind of play without knowing that he'd lived to Nicho Psy in the first place. Arkham Knight has put enough time in the lab, testing these Tems, making sure, can I survive a Nicho Psy after a Madness buff and just get rid of its ally? And surely enough, he can. Now, with Nicho Psy not being off the board, he doesn't have a high priority move, and if he wants to, he can throw his attacks into that Kinu slot and just, like, sacrifice his Tem to gain some more momentum.
I mean, yeah, at that point, you're sitting at, like, what, 8 HP? And you might as well throw some Crystal Spikes or something, get a little bit more value out of that Zenith, but yeah, at this point, it does look like it will be an intentional sack for both of these. Perhaps maybe
you
sort
do
of
have
a
a Pig
bamboozle.
with Bamboozle.
Yeah.
That is something to keep in mind.
Which is half the reason you have Pig Epic at this point. Pig Epic. One of these days.
Hey, I'm at like 50-50 now for saying it correctly. Ninja Jutsu coming out.
Oh, wow.
Prioritize
And that'll be the end of
everything and take out
Zenith.
the Zenith.
Unfortunately, Bamboozle doesn't look like they'll get a chance to get played here. That side pad very quick. And was it overexertion on the side pad? Was it? I believe so.
Yeah, it not quite overexertion, but Psypat didn't manage to actually, or sorry, Pigapek didn't get the Bamboozle off as it was aiming to give it to that ally, and now it's dead from the Kinu, and Kinu doesn't need to worry about having that 40% health loss, as it's already done its job. And now it's just this Psypat and Kinu versus Barnshi and Psypat here. Arkham Knight not having a lot of high pressure Tems to get rid of Kovanel's team now. And with that Psypat having a defense buff, he can swap it out, save it for later, as Barnshi and Psypat isn't something he can really deal with. And then
I do want to point out that a lot of people saw that early Zenith fall on Kovanel's side, by the way, as a sign of Arkham Knight being a bit ahead here. But actually, the amount of value Kovanel got out of his Psypat was impressive. And I actually think that right now Kovanel has a bit of an edge here going into our third or fourth turn of this round. Toxic Ink on Gialis.
Toxic Ink not going to do much, and now Gialis a little bit pressured here from a potential hypoxia from Barnshi that it needs to worry about. It's not going to be able to heat up and attack here and stay safe.
So no Bamboozle heat up here?
I don't think a Bamboozle heat up, as 2 attacks into that slot. It's going to make it scary, especially since next turn, it has the potential to possibly die, especially since if he does go with a Hypoxia and, say, a Nicho Psy from Psypat into the Gallus slot, the Bamboozle won't be able to come out first if his Barnshi is faster.
And it will stay out. Gialis getting hit with a Tornado from Barnshi. Needs one more hit, and the Gialis will go down, which will be a big victory here.
Sharp stabs.
Whoa! Wow, so close with 5 HP remaining on that Barnshi. Big Epic going in with the turbo choreography.
And then Toxic Ink will finish off Gialis here.
Yeah, but, you know, again, getting decent value out of the Gialis spot, but I just... Oof. I mean, that's a tough Tem to see go down, because when you have a Gialis on your team, you expect it to put work on 3 or 4 Tem, not just 1.
And again, Arkham Knight showing that he's done the testing, he's done the calculations. He knew that his Zenith would survive in Nicho Sai last turn, which is why he made that play.
Yep.
And Barnshee, being just tanky enough to survive a Sharp Stabs in this situation, helped him get rid of Gallus, and now Kovanel doesn't have any Crystal Sweepers to really build up and pressure here.
Now the thought here was considered about a switch into potentially Kinu, and the reason why you would do that is to add some extra protection to the field, but he was going to do that for the side pot slot, which would have given very little value to a Barnshee who's within an inch of his health. So it's at this point, I think we're just going to see some more unbridled aggression. Kovanel going to have to make some choices, though. Barnshee switching up.
Getting that side pat defenses up
Getting
is
the Kinu
huge here, as right now, it's really just these two side pats that are the major threat. If he can get rid of side pat here, the first person to lose their side pat in this situation loses the game.
Who would have ever thought Saipat would have been like one of the better Tims in the game the first time you meet him?
Especially since you see it so early on in the first island.
Exactly.
Saipat doesn't get an evolution, and as such, his base stats are extremely high. With Saipat instead opting to attack the Kinu slot, this means that Arkham Knight's Saipat has a big advantage here, as it can throw another Toxic Ink into that slot, and even if it overexerts, he can't swap in Kinu to take that very well. It's going to be scary for this Kovanel here. If he loses this Saipat, it's over. I'm almost expecting the Saipat to swap out right now and try to, get Arkham Knight's Saipat to lose as much of his health as possible. Or much of his stamina as possible. We see the Ninja Jutsu coming out.
And yet, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Saipat overexerting there, taking a bit of damage from the overexertion. A little late for the bamboozle there, but, you know, Kinu with sacrifice. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's going to be very nice defense buff for Saipat. The Kinu was able to resist that Ninja Jutsu so well, and now that Saipat is overexerted, it has to be careful about a potential beta burst coming out from Kinu, as that still will deal a decent amount of damage, being a mental attack.
Absolutely, it will do a good amount of damage. Saipat not able to even make a move this turn due to overexertion.
And with that Pig Epic being a little bit faster now, it has the ability to outspeed and put up a Bamboozle or knock out the Barnshee, which will leave this Saipat on its own.
It's a very bad situation here, as the Barnshee will go down immediately. This turns pretty much a huge loss for Arkham Knight. Kovanel showing us why he went so far in last week's tournament. Maybe down at one point, but never count Kovanel out.
Yeah, we know that Arkham Knight, he has really good calculations and he built his team really well, but Kovanel just played it a bit better.
And another overexertion here. And we see the
Arkham
desire
to
for a concede.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But at this point, yes, the round is over. Arkham Knight has only one option, and that is to rest the Tim or concede. In this case, it was a rested Tim, and that will end the match there. Kovanel will take the round. Remember, this is a best 2 of 3, so no change from Kovanel's side, but we could see Mix in action, and we do during this pick ban phase.
Yeah,
very good to see that.
A mixed Kinu lead is a very strong lead, and that might be exactly what we're seeing, especially considering Arkham decided to pick the Barnshee first turn, which is going to be at risk of the Mix's Crystal Spikes. If Kovanel picks a Kinu mixed lead here, that could be huge depending on what Arkham Knight tries to bring out.
Zenith gets picked on Arkham Knight. So Arkham will be starting with that Zenith and the Barnshee.
Right,
against
Zenith
Mix.
with its Madness buff and Crystal type is going to be super effective to Mix. Just being able to set up a Madness buff here and then throw it into the Mix slot will more than likely kill Mix. It's really just what do you throw on your team right now to try to counter this aggression from the Zenith, because if you throw in Psypat, it's at risk of getting Beta Burst and doubled up into, as we've seen so many times before with the Beta Burst or Hypoxia and Crystal Spikes into the Psypat slot. He could go with Kinu and boost up the defenses, but then he loses some momentum. We do see the Psypat pick in the end, though.
All right, Psypat is there.
One thing that's key knowledge is that he knows that Arkham Knight's Zenith has enough tank slots, tank stats to eat up a Nicho Sai after using a Madness buff. So he's going to have to throw 2 attacks in and not just rely purely on Nicho Sai to take care of Zenith this first opening turns.
Real quick, I wanted to say a quick shout out here to Feral Kadan, who says, "Give me 2 weeks and I will break the meta." Good luck,
Also,
sir. Good luck. I hope to see it.
Also, shout out to all of the subs that we've gotten over the past stream here. I appreciate all of you guys subbing to us and supporting the stream, as well as getting access to that Pepewa emote. Very nice emote.
I need a scunch emote. I don't care. I just need it. It's important.
I want to make a Scunch emote. If you Google Scunch, you get this weird thing where you see Scunch, Luma Scunch show up as a musical artist, and it's really, really great. I'd love to make a guitar playing Scunch as an emote.
Absolutely. Now, of course, we are filling out the rest of the brackets here. We have the Volcrane and the Valorant being banned on Arkham Knight's side, and I couldn't read off the rest, but Kovanel versus Arkham Knight. This is the second round here in this tournament. Second round for this particular best of 3. If Kovanel wins, that will be the end of the match. But if Arkham Knight finds a way to victory, we will have a third round of play between these two players. And we are off.
Yeah, so we're more than likely going to see a double up into that Psypat slot here. As the Psypat retreats, and this Kinu is going to be brought in, more than likely going to be knocked out in the process, but at least getting that protector buff onto the mix.
Zenith with that early Crystal Spikes against Kinu. Doing a bit more than 50% HP. Mix will respond with their own Crystal Spikes.
Yeah, going onto the Zenith is smart here. You'd normally think you'd want to pressure into the Banshee, but Banshee might have swapped out here, and pressuring that Zenith so it becomes less effective is huge. And actually able to survive, since Banshee opted to use Beta Burst instead of Hypoxia, means that this Kinu can get even more value out now.
Yeah, that was a thought that maybe the Kinu would be... I can't remember. I think... No, the Kino did do a Beta Burst. So, yeah, no, that Kino was there on the board the whole time. So, probably expecting the Kino to switch out.
No, it was the Psypat. He swapped in Psypat for Kinu. So.
Oh, right.
He was expecting Psypat to stay in. And that Beta Burst would have been enough. But I think Hypoxia would have been enough as well. And throwing out the Hypoxia would have been the smarter move. Especially since Banshee has access to Air Specialist, which increases the damage you deal with wind techniques. It would have been more than enough damage. You see the Kinu retreat and bring in Kialis. We have 2 Crystal Tems here that have a lot of damage that can come out into this Pick-a-Peck or Banshee slot.
Banshee with Wind Burst. Not much damage there. Kovanel being very smart in terms of which Tem to leave out to take, tanking a lot of damage here.
Yeah, we actually see Kovanel's Kialis wear the coat item, which reduces the amount of damage it takes from wind techniques by 20%, so it was actually able to eat up that wind burst even better than it normally would have, as reducing the amount of wind damage it takes makes it so much safer to swap into these supports like Pigapek or Barnshi.
It's a very smart choice for Gialis, as we've actually heard people say that they would use like an ice cube on Gialis to protect against fire or things like that. But considering fire is hardly ever used on any of these teams, the coat makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, not to mention that you don't want Gallus out anyway against Fire Thames,
Oh
so
yeah.
even reducing the fire damage, you don't want him to be out there anyway. We see the mix swap out being low on stamina, instead opting to bring Kinu in, getting the protector bonus off
Yep.
on the Gallus.
And you gotta love those switch-in moves because it doesn't feel like you wasted a turn by getting in Kinu.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, even then, with how this game works, just being able to eat up the
Wow,
opponent's
that
stamina.
coat putting in work. 2 tornadoes back to back, and with the protector buff, Gialis just goes, whatever. It's nothing. Whatever. You could tornado me all day long. Here's a crystal bite. What you think about that one? I mean,
the
like,
Barnshi just getting knocked.
I mean, this is amazing, and this is why Kovanel did so well in our previous tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if Kovanel goes far with these big brain plays.
Yeah, that is just a really smart item build. Having the coat on Gallus is showing how much value it has, and it's going to be at risk of dying from a crystal spikes here, so it needs to be careful, but you still have the buffed up mix as well. So
Yeah.
the mixes can potentially
Dallas
come
will
out.
retreat.
Yeah.
And sure enough, just like you were saying, Mix will come out onto the field. Going to eat that crystal spike, though.
It does have that +1 special defense boost, so it could be living this attack and bringing it just into Puppet Master range, and now the opponent is going to have all of its attacks forced out onto Saipat.
Very good damage there, but Mix able to survive. And, you know, without that special defense buff, would Mix have lived there, in your opinion?
No, absolutely not. I
Absolutely
personally
not.
run a Mix myself, and I'm more than aware of what Mix can and can't do. Having the ability to live a +2, like a Madness buffed Zenareth, is only possible thanks to the addition of moves like Kinu coming in with a Protector bonus. That wasn't a Madness buffed up Zenareth, I believe, but it still does a lot of damage, and having that Kinu buff was very vital in order to survive an attack like that, and putting it in range of Puppet Master here means it's going to have that Puppet Master mix is online, and it's going to be so difficult to deal with.
I knew it would be dipping into some reserve time this match, but I thought it'd be Kovanel taking the time with the decisions, but this time it's Arkham Knight.
Kovanel is just a lot more confident in his decisions this tournament, and he's making the right ones.
Oh, that's scary. A confident Kovanel with no Dirk or Karth to compete against. How far can Kovanel go?
I mean, it's very possible that he might be able to take this. We saw just how well he used Mix there. A lot of people are going to be scared of throwing Mix into an attack that it's weak to, but he's just thinking, no, I mean, Puppet Master will get off here, and Mix will survive, and I have a lot more value out of this. The opponent has no Fire Thames, since I banned out the Volcrane, so it has no Meteor Swarm, or any way to really pressure this Mix right now.
I mean, that's true. These teams are not capable of producing their own Tuckmafried Volarend, so at this point, without any fire on the field, the Crystal Tim's got to be feeling pretty solid.
Yeah, no way to make Tukma Fried Volarend or
Yeah.
have any Mastion energy drink either.
Well, there we go. Saipat take it. That Toxic Ink, it was ×2 effective. But actually, Saipat will continue on, really putting a hurt on that Pig Epic.
The Pig Epic won't die to poison this turn, unfortunately. I think he was trying to push the Pig Epic into range of dying from poison there, but
not gonna happen.
it wasn't enough.
Arkham Knight, very tanky Thames here, and I'm wondering how much of that is from TV training and how much special defense or defense is actually planned in his builds.
I would love to see Arkham Knight's builds for TV spreads, because we've seen in this match, even though his decision making hasn't been quite on par with Kovanel's, he's builds have been surprising us with how effective they can be and what they've been able to survive.
Yeah, I mean, like it does depend on TVs. Obviously, for those who don't know what home TVs are, trained values, and you can get your SVs all maxed out across the board, and that gives you a decent base value of stats. But from there, tamers can train their Tems to have higher stat values based on trained values, and you get those by training your Tems against certain wild Temtems, and that can make a very, very big difference in tournaments like this. So depending on how good defense is or special defense is when trained as a trained value, that could be what we're seeing from Arkham Knight, a very, very defensively trained team. And considering that he's able to survive so many different moves that otherwise would have normally taken him out, is very impressive. And then, of course, don't forget that those also compound and get better with stat buffing, with stat boosting effects like Kinu's Protector and Sacrifice, which he's been making very solid use out of.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to look at that last play here, right? He swapped out his Tems, and I think that this is really good because that Zenarith is the main threat right now, and I think I wasn't paying too much attention. I believe he traded Sidepad for the Pig Epic. Either way, these Tems, while both of them being weak to Zenarith, just being able to get rid of Zenarith's stamina right now means that when he comes in with his damage dealers like Mix, then he'll be able to deal with the Zenarith without having to worry about stamina being an issue that he has to consider.
Kovanel now taking time.
He really has to make the most value out of this play here because he needs to have these Tems being as effective as they can while they're on the board to really eat up Arkham Knight Zenarith's stamina.
Kovanel really taking some time. This is surprising me as I felt like Kovanel has been on top and in control this entire match, but clearly something is going on that has Kovanel a little bit worried, and here we go. Finally, Crystal Spikes up against the Barnshe. That right there, my friends, is oh, so close. Not quite there. I thought for sure we were going to say goodbye to Barnshe this round. It didn't happen, and it potentially Kovanel knew that this aggression would be coming and was wondering, what can my Tems take? What can they not take? And at this point, Kovanel took a risk, and it paid off. Barnshe surviving, getting more value with Sypat being taken out. And that was a gutsy play. I mean, like, it doesn't look like much from, just sitting here kind of watching, but that was a huge risk leaving that Barnshe on the field, and it paid off.
Yeah, I think it really just came down to one thing that's different compared to Arkham Knight's Barnshe. Kovanel is running a neutrality Barnshe, which means that it can't be affected by status conditions like Toxic. So it is a lot tankier as a result, not being able to get chipped down by things like Burn or Toxic tick damage. So because it was neutrality, it had that extra 5% health it needed to survive getting hit by the some Crystal Spikes there.
There's Crystal Spikes do go off there on Zenarith, and that's enough to knock it out. Very big play there from a Mix that was just down to near death here.
Mix overexerting in the process. Gallus actually using Heat Up, losing his chance to deal with this opposing Mix. Now this Mix has a free turn to rest up. If Gallus were to... I think Gallus didn't have any turn 1 moves since that was the first turn it was in. That a lot of people don't run turn 1 moves on Gallus, as its only strong turn 1 move is Real Impact, which wouldn't have done much damage to Mix here anyway. But if that would have been enough damage to get rid of the Mix, then... Oh, and not even able to kill Gallus!
That is less than 1% left on that Gallus! Oh, wow! I mean, that has got to be disheartening. You think, maybe I got a chance, maybe I've got a shot! And you can't even take out the enemy Gallus within, that's under 1% HP left.
Yikes. Arkham needed to use a stronger move there and secure this knockout.
Wow.
With that, Gallus has the ability to move first this turn because he wins the speed tie. So a Crystal Spike is coming out.
Overexertion sacrifice here. Crystal spiking it. Gialis now very low on health. Mix being sacrificed here. Who moves first? And Kovanels will move first, getting the Gialis knockout, securing the victory for Kovanel this match. Wow! Kovanel showing us why he's got the big brain plays to take this to the end.